Hi, welcome back to another episode of Nature Aquariums TV, and today we're going to give you the 2-month update to this beautiful UNS 50C aquarium that Luis Navarro scaped for us. Before we continue with the video, please remember to like, share, and subscribe for more videos like this. All right, so I'm super excited to actually give you the 2-month update on this tank. And we've done a lot of things since we set up the tank with Luis, and he did a phenomenal job scaping it. But I did want to cover some of the things that we've done to the tank since then, and to give you a little bit of an inside look. How do you maintain and grow a tank after you scape it? So a couple of things with the plant selection that we did add Blixia japonica to the tank. And Blixia, we used it in between the rock and the hair grass to give you kind of like an in-between plant, and it's doing really nice. Some of the areas are actually turning a little bit reddish. Two, we really focused on letting the plants grow, especially the fern area, to really give it a little bit of shading over the rock so the Bucephalandra would not be hit with a lot of lighting. That's important when you're doing a mixed tank setup, because you're going to have some low light tanks and you're going to have some high light tanks. And some tanks are going to be both a mixed high and low light plants in there, kind of like a mixed reef, and you need to make sure that you have some shadowing going on so you can grow some of those light sensitive plants well. So as far as fish, we brought in a Apisto in here. He's doing great. We've also brought in rainbows, dwarf rainbows in there, and Danios, and they're doing really nice in there, along with shrimp to do the cleanup. Oddly enough, we've been short on auto Synchilus, so we really haven't been able to put autos in here to store because we needed to have them available for sale, and there's been a little bit of a shortage, so go figure. Now, I wanted to really talk about lighting and fertilization, because those are your two key components in there. One, when we set up the Kessil A360XE, this is the latest model of the 360, it boasts 15% more par. I got to tell you, I did the par readings on this. I don't know about 15%, it feels almost 20-25% more par. The light is super powerful. We're running at a max setting of 45 to 50% throughout the day, because otherwise it's putting some insane par numbers. We're keeping about 60 to 80 par on the hair grass, and about 100 to 140 par in the middle section here. What's really helping with the algae control is the fact that the plants did grow very nicely, and they're providing some shade. And then the stem plants, which can handle all the lighting, they're taking the brunt of the par. Number two, CO2, super important. You got to keep that steady, and you have to keep up with your water changes. Number three, we talked about maintaining the KH and the GH. The GH has to be kept between 4 to 6. I will tell you, a lot of these plants, like crypts, we never really went through melt on our crypts because we kept that GH over 6. Every water change, we were dosing with Equilibrium. Not only does Equilibrium help you with your GH, it also adds a lot of potassium in there. And when these plants are growing, especially extremely fast with the CO2 and the high light, they're consuming insane amounts of potassium. Now, going to that, I want to talk about the fertilization. And this is what we've been doing to this tank. We have an auto doser using the Sentia dosing system, and we're dosing Sechem XL every morning. We're dosing APT1, which the APT1 is potassium and traces, and we're dosing a little bit of phosphate. That's what we're focusing on this tank on. And that's how I keep the green spot algae. I can kind of tell when I have the green hard spots of algae that I'm not dosing enough phosphate. That's your telltale sign. Not green dust algae, don't get them confused. That's a tell for another video where we have a tank that is going through green dust algae. But the green dot, or the hard green spot algae, that you'll see some hard spots on the glass, and that's very easily remedied by increasing your phosphate. As far as nitrate, we did a fishless cycling on this tank, and the media that we used was all new media, so we actually followed very heavily dosing ammonia almost every other day at one point. It was really consuming it strongly. The ammonia, as it was being converted to nitrates, provided with the nitrates. As soon as the tank cycled, we did stock up the tank pretty heavily, and that's maintaining our nitrate level so we don't have to dose on the nitrates. Speaking of nitrates, part of keeping the red plants extremely red is by keeping the nitrates low. So that's a reaction. If you ever really want to get red into your red plants, watch your nitrates. Too much nitrates are really great for photosynthesis and the plants do well, but they are going to turn greener than redder. Whereas a low nitrate situation is going to make these tanks really push to red. With that, we're dosing daily, not once a week. You have to microdose on these tanks, and whether you're doing it with pumps, right, and the tank is big enough, or whether you buy a couple of these little painter's caps, you know, like they do for mixing paint and storing paint, and you want to set up 7 days worth of dosing, and you label it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and you kind of set up your chemicals that way, and then all you do is dump them in the morning. You can do that or go with a doser, but dosing daily is the key to these tanks. Otherwise, guys, please use the comments below to ask us questions, and we're going to try to get you probably a 6-month update on this tank and show you how it's doing. But for right now, just wanted to give you an update. I think Luis did a phenomenal job on this scape. Great choice of plants. I'm really happy with the way the plants are going. I want to thank you guys for supporting us on our channel, supporting our store. Remember, all these products you can actually buy through our online store with the links below at the end of the video. And as always, have a super great day fish keeping, guys. We're going to show you how to set up this beautiful UNS 50C aquarium that was scaped by Luis Navarro from Chem. So a couple days ago, we actually had Luis Navarro come in from Chem, and he did a beautiful aquascaping nature style setup on this UNS 50C aquarium, and we did a live presentation in front of a store audience, and he went through a lot of the technical aquascaping techniques. It was a really great presentation, which, by the way, we'll have the link to that video at the end of this video. But we didn't get a chance to fill it with water or hook up all the equipment. So one of the things that I wanted to share with you is what I'm going to go through: putting on the filtration, adjusting the light for par, filling the tank with water, all of these cool things that, you know, are important to learn. And I'm going to show you some tips and tricks involved as well. Now, there are some challenges where this tank is at. The front of our store, where we have all these beautiful display tanks, happens to face west, and we cannot block our front doors, obviously, for reasons. So we do get the sun hitting, especially in the summer. It's really hard, and we've had some algae challenge tanks in the past. We've done some rearranging here at the store. We've moved a lot of the tanks further into the store so that way they're not impacted by the sun. But I'm still going to have a challenge with this tank, as this is going to be the closest to the door. So one of the things that we are going to do is I'm going to show you how I'm going to apply a frosted background. We already did this to the back of the tank. We're going to apply it to the side over here to actually help us shield some of that light coming in. We're also going to set up a dry tank that we put for sale to kind of block this side so it doesn't get hit with the light. A couple other things that we are going to show you today. We're going to flood the tank. We're going to set it up with our canister filter. We're going to use a UNS Delta 120. Now, I know this is a 30-gallon tank. The Delta 120 is a little bit overkill, but it's my last of the V1s that I had in the box, and I kind of wanted to use it and showcase it. So I'll show you guys how that Delta filter works. Lastly, I want to turn on the CO2 and also set up our Aquavitro Sentia dosers. We are going to be using all Chem products on this tank. I want to set it up with an NPK dosing and show you guys how that's going to be done as well. Let's get going to it. All right, guys, so we just finished setting up both the CO2 and the canister filter. We're getting our water ready for filling up. What we're doing is we use RODI water here. We're going to use alkaline buffer and equilibrium to get the water to where we like. We like mixing our water around the 4 kH or so, between 3 and 4, and the general hardness around 6. That's optimal for plant growth. So we're getting that water mixed up. As soon as it's ready, we're gonna flood this tank and get this going. In the meantime, I'm gonna work on getting the dosing units for the Aquavitro Sentia dosing unit. We're gonna mount it to the inside of the cabinet so then we can fertilize this tank. All right, so what we're doing here is we're gonna be repurposing our Sentia dosers. We had this set up on another tank from another build, and we're gonna reprogram these and get them programmed to this tank. Now the nice thing is the Sentia is modular, meaning that you can add or remove units as necessary. They have the connectors on the side, and you can add these units to either side. Now we are going to reprogram them in software, but for right now what we want to do is clear out the old fertilizers that was in there. So one of the things that I like using for rimless tanks is using the glass U-tubes from Seachem and setting them up so that way we can hang them on the edge, and there's a manual feed mode. So we're drawing hot water right now to start clearing out these lines with some nice hot water. What this is doing is clearing out any of the remnants of the last fertilizer that we used. What's nice with the Sentia dosers is the fact that you can use them with either Seachem or Aquavitro products. You just scan the UPC. It's going to automatically know what product it is, and you can use it to do smart dosing, in which it's going to give you recommended dosage. Or if you follow the testing regimes as you test your water for the different elements, it's going to eventually learn and be predictive in figuring out how much of your macronutrients or elements for marine are you using per week, and adjust its dosing accordingly. And if you do want to use a third-party product that's non-Seachem or Aquavitro, it will allow you to set up your manual dosing schedule, skip days, however many times a day you want to dose. It works really well. This is a very well-made product. It's made in Italy with a 5-year warranty. So we have now mounted the tubing hanging off to the side, and we mounted our doser in our cabinet so we can put our bottles of fertilizers down here. And if I ever need to add another dosing element, all I have to do is add additional heads, and it's super easy. All right, so the moment we've been waiting for, we're going to fill up this tank, and we have to do a couple things. We're going to use the same plastic to protect the plants. We're going to lay it there onto the rock. We're going to go very slowly at filling. So this tank's posing a little bit more of a challenge in filling it because of the planting. So we are going to slowly fill it by hand using this container. start the filter, it's important that you don't plug it in, and you start the siphoning process by just pushing like that. You will notice that it immediately starts filling the tank and creating a siphon. And you can see the air bubbles coming out, and the water level is dropping as the filter is getting filled up. When that process stops, then you can turn on the filter. All right, so we've hooked up the filter, we've had the CO2 running, the lighting, but what you don't know is this is now 2 weeks after we set up the tank and flooded the tank. So I want to show you a couple of things, what we've done to the tank since the 2 weeks. But I've noticed a couple of things that we need to start addressing today. One of them is the fact that I'm having a little bit of cyano algae, and I think the suspect cause is going to be very low nutrients, like 0 nitrates. We are right now going to take a sample water. I just got this from the tank, and we're going to do our aquaspin test. We're going to notate to see where the nitrates and phosphates, the general hardness and the alkalinity are, to make sure we are doing our dosing correctly. Today I am going to hook up nitrate and potassium dosing to the doser to get those levels up to where they need to be. And then I'm going to give you a little update on the plants. We've also added additional plants to the tank, and we'll show you how they're doing. So we're doing our aquaspin test. The aquaspin, remember guys, it is not 100% accurate. No test ever is unless you do an ICP testing, but it is very close since we have been using the same testing for all of our tests. Then the consistency with the margin of error is going to be accurate. In other words, what that means is if there is a 3% margin of error on, say, the nitrate test, but you use the same test every single time, you are going to get consistent results, and you're going to see whether you're trending up or down. Now, with this tank, I suspect that there are no nitrates. I haven't fed any nitrates. All I have done with the tank have been regular water changes, multiple water changes during the week, and I've added Chem Equilibrium, which adds potassium, general hardness, and some iron. But I think now it's time to start adding nitrate and phosphate. All right, let's see what we have. Alkalinity is at 38, which is pretty good. The hardness has dropped, which means we need to add a little bit of more equilibrium. There is no phosphate, just a little bit of nitrite in there. We're still cycling the tank with ammonia. It's telling me I need to add more ammonium chloride, and my nitrates are really, really low. So without really any phosphate, it's not going to take up any of this nitrate. So we're probably going to have to add a little bit of phosphate and nitrate as well. We'll get here back to the machine and go back to the tank and see how we're doing. All right guys, so on their Sentia app, we already established the green circles for Flourish Excel. We're dosing that 10 ml every morning before the lights go on. We've added one head for Flourish Potassium, that's the orange, and one for phosphorus. The nitrate, I will be adding it in the next week or so, but I want to continue getting the tank cycled. I need to add more ammonium chloride into the system. It's going to create the nitrates for me in the tank, but I don't want to overdose nitrates because I don't want to get any excess algae. So by adding more potassium and a little bit of phosphorus, that's going to get me to the levels that I want. So let's get that connected, and we'll prime the pumps, and we'll show you how we do the dosing. So the Excel's already set. What's nice with the Sentia dosing pump, I've already configured these to use a Chem product. So for Flourish Potassium, I need to set up a dosing regime. So I hit plus, and then normally you can put in how many mLs you want. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a calculated dose. We're going to go and add a new schedule. Now normally you want to keep potassium around 20-24 ppm on a weekly basis. So if we go here to our calculator and say we do 24 divided by 7, and this is a starting point. So every day I want to be around 3.4 ppm. So we're going to hit the plus, and we want to be 3.4, and probably do this over 3 doses a day. It does automatically. We want the dosage to start 9 in the morning and be done well before the lights go off at 3 p.m. And we're going to do this every day. Save schedule. Next, we're going to do the flourish phosphorus. And I don't want that. We want to go to, let's do a suggested dose, and that's going to be 0.7. And it knows how much to add because I set up the water parameters in my tank on how many gallons of waters I had. And once again, I want to do this 3 times a day, start from 9 in the morning, finish by 3 p.m. every day. There you have it. So when I look here, I have my Excel dosing, potassium, phosphorus. By the time we do the next video and the next update, we will have added ahead for the nitrate dosing and for the iron dosing as well with traces. So as we wrap up this video, I wanted to cover a couple of things that we've done. We've set up the lighting schedule using the Kessil Wi-Fi controller. We're out of the acclimation period in which I had cut back the power of the lights, and it took me through and ramped up the lighting now to full power. I'm running between 50 to 60 par at the substrate here and the hair grass. It does ramp it up towards the day, and I'm pushing almost 100 par kind of in the middle of the tank over here. We've added a couple of new plants to the back. One of them is a new cultivar available in the aquarium hobby, which is a white Ludwigia. It's on the far right side of the tank. And we've also added Limnophilia aromatica, which is a nice purple green cultivar. Very, very nice. And that should add us a couple of different ranges of color. As you can see, this is the Ludwigia Super Red, and it's just come out wonderful in color. The crypts are beginning to show a little bit of melt, but they've actually been very, very resilient. I believe part of that has to do with adding so much of the equilibrium and keeping the GH at the right level. The hair grass is beginning to grow very, very nicely. And even though we have the boosies up front, the majority of them are doing well. They're getting a little bit of shading from the Java fern and eventually the bulbitis. The whole point of this is to have the ferns shade a little bit of the boosie so that way they don't get blasted by full light. Finally, the Hygrophila pinnifarida, that is growing extremely nice, and we're seeing some new growth in the tank. Guys, been super exciting doing this tank with you, following along. I look forward to actually setting up more and showing you the video as we progress with this tank, and to the point of adding fish. So the next video we'll be adding some fish, or show you about the fish that's been added, and we'll show you how the fertilization strategy is coming along. First of all, super happy with the way that Luis did this tank. Great choice of plants put in there. Thanks to everybody here at the store who's been taking care of the tank and doing a great job at it. Thanks, Brittany. Shout out to Brittany. Basically, let's recap. Take care of your water changes, watch your light, take care of your fertilization, and that's the key thing to getting these tanks going. They look beautiful when you first set them up. You gotta finish them and take care of the maintenance. Other than that, I'm looking forward to doing a 6-month update onto this tank, so we're probably not gonna give you any more footage of this until 6 months from now. As always, use the comment section below, please, and put your questions. I love seeing the questions that you guys have, or suggestions, or any sort of ideas you may have. That's always good interaction. Everybody learns from it. And as always, I'm going to encourage you to have a great day fish keeping. Thank you for supporting our channel. Thank you for supporting our store. Have a great day.